So again, for those of you who just joined us, today's webinar is going to be about the Power+Flex battery grid services program in Holy Cross Energy territory. Today, you're going to learn about how Enphase delivers best-in-class grid services performance and customer experience, and some details about the benefits of partnering with Enphase and how we can help you bring maximum value to your customers. For those of you who might be new to the concept of grid services, it encompasses a variety of programs that are offered by electric utilities across the whole country, really. And the gist of it is that the utilities offer some kind of financial incentive to allow the owner's solar and battery system to help support the grid. This particular program, which we're going to cover in a lot of detail today, is a particularly lucrative grid services program. We've done webinars on several different programs around the country, and they really vary a lot in terms of how much the incentives are. And this one is actually one of the best that we've seen. So this should be a really valuable program for you and help you sell more Enphase systems in your territory. Sorry, I had a little technical challenge there. Okay. Brief introductions here. My name is Tony Vernetti. I'm a senior trainer at Enphase Energy. I've been with the company for about 5 years now. I'm based in California, but I do sales and technical training for many different subjects across the country, from sales to installation, design, and so forth. And I really love supporting the grid services department here because I think it's an relatively untapped opportunity that's becoming more and more common across the country. These programs are really popping up because they are so valuable for the utility to be able to tap into energy storage, distributed energy storage rather, as well as for homeowners. And when it benefits the homeowners, it's going to benefit you, the installer, as well. So there's something in it for everybody. We also have Michael Norbeck. He's the Senior Director of Grid Services Business Development at Enphase. He is a really key person in standing up these programs, working with the utilities and other organizations and companies that are sometimes involved with these grid services programs to make sure that we have our ducks in a row as Enphase, and we have a really nice streamlined process that's easy for you guys to use to sign up your customers for these programs. So thanks for helping out, Michael. We do have in the GoToWebinar tool panel, there's a questions tool. I encourage you to type your questions in throughout the session. We may pause during the session to answer some of those questions if it makes sense. If we don't worry. We'll make sure to answer all your questions at the end of the session when we have our Q&A. And if for whatever reason we don't know the answer today, we will get back to you by email within a day or two. So this is our agenda today. First, we're going to talk about a little bit about the advantage of working with Enphase for our grid services program, the installer experience in terms of signing up and assisting your customers signing up for grid services and managing the program. We're going to go into detail about the Power+Flex program, so you'll have a really solid understanding about the background and how the incentives work and how to calculate how much the incentive is going to be for the homeowner. An overview of the program enrollment workflow, so you'll really understand how to sign up properly, and some of the next steps that you might need to take depending on how much experience you have with Enphase systems. You may need to go through some training and get certified to install Enphase systems if you haven't gone through that yet. And then we'll end with a Q&A. Okay, so let's start with the Enphase Grid Services Advantage. Both Enphase IQ batteries and microinverters are grid services ready. They have advanced grid functions which help with grid stability as well. System owners can use their battery in the operating mode or the profile of their choice. By that I mean either backup or self-consumption or savings when they're participating in grid services. When the program event begins, it'll temporarily override whatever that profile setting is to discharge the battery as the program requires. And then once that event is over, it'll revert back to the normal operating mode. We've worked really hard at making the homeowner experience best in class. With the Enphase app, the owner can sign up for and manage their participation in all of our grid services programs right from the app. If they're in an area that happens to be prone to power outages, they can also set a reserve capacity so that some of the energy is saved in case there's an outage. And we also offer live customer support 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And all models of Enphase IQ batteries now have 15-year warranties as of July 1st of actually last year. Most customers these days for new systems are installing our new IQ Battery 5P, but there is some inventory of previous generations of batteries, and I'm sure that Michael is going to cover any details about hardware that you need to know. Installers who have helped their customers to sign up for grid services can use the Enphase Installer Portal, also known as Installer Toolkit or ITK, to monitor their customers' batteries. Actually, I made a mistake there. Installer Portal is not the same as ITK. Installer Portal is the equivalent of Enlighten Manager. It's just a different name that we go by sometimes. You can use the Installer Portal to monitor your customers' batteries during events to make sure that they're taken care of and they understand what's happening. We also offer free training to our installers for many different topics, but generally for sales, design, and installation via Enphase University, which is our online learning platform, as well as with on-demand and live webinars like we're doing today. We also offer free hands-on training at several regional training centers around the country. We also have a dedicated page on our Enphase website for grid services. So if you are curious about other grid services programs or just want to learn about Enphase grid services offerings in general, we encourage you to check out that webpage, and that we'll give you that URL toward later on in the session. All right, with that, I'm going to hand the mic over to Michael Norbeck to go into the details of the program.
Awesome. Thank you, Tony, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm really excited to see the great turnout and excited to talk to you a little bit about how this program might be a good fit for your customers. Tony, if you want to move us forward one. Thank you. So a bit about the Power+Flex program, a little bit of background and how the event or the battery kind of performance criteria will work. So the program is available to all new and existing Enphase battery customers that are in Holy Cross Energy territory. And as we know, Holy Cross serves a handful of communities west of Denver. So not a huge service territory, but a good group of communities there. A lot of folks are interested in battery in that area. Of course, I imagine you guys are going to be pretty familiar with. So a great chance to begin and kind of advance that conversation around battery with homeowners in this community based on the value of the program. The enrollment process will take place via the Holy Cross Energy and Virtual Peaker online portal, and we'll have a link to that portal later in the slides and a screen-by-screen walkthrough of how that'll work for customers. It's a very easy process. In terms of the program event framework or operational framework, Holy Cross plans to schedule both charge and discharge or delay charge program events. So discharge or delay charge events will be scheduled during peak demand periods, and charge times will be scheduled during will be scheduled during times of renewable quote unquote oversupply. So think about discharge or delay charge as reducing stress on the grid, right? Battery discharges creates a little bit more room on Holy Cross's territory, right? And Holy Cross's grid in their territory, right? A little bit more capacity that's available for the grid to use. Or if you delay the charge, then that means that the customer's battery might normally charge up from the grid if it's been depleted, but you push out that charging time until later when there isn't high demand on Holy Cross's grid, right? When we talk about renewable oversupply, that is, let's say Holy Cross's utility scale solar assets are producing at a really high level and demand isn't super high. Maybe it's a bright spring day, let's say, for example. Then you're going to have a lot of solar that you don't have much to do with, right? Maybe you have to curtail the solar. That's not a great option, right? You're giving up, close to zero cost energy. So if you can have this group of batteries optimize their charging at that point in time, then you're making productive use of this renewable energy that Holy Cross has on the grid that may not be otherwise, very useful to them at that particular time. So discharge or delay charge events will typically last about 2 to 3 hours. These will usually be scheduled between 4 and 7 p.m. And Holy Cross is aiming to target about 10 such events per month. So this limit can be exceeded if conditions warrant. And that second part is going to be kind of up to Holy Cross's discretion. They haven't provided us a ton of detail with respect to kind of what those warranting conditions could be. I think it's probably, if there's an exceptional period of prolonged grid stress, high demand, low power availability, maybe they'll aim for 11 or 12 events instead of 10. But I think a good assumption is 10 events per month. Charge events will usually last about 3 to 10 hours, and these will typically be scheduled between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. or 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. And Holy Cross will aim to target about 90 of these events per year, though again, this limit may be exceeded if conditions warrant. So think of it as periods of extended low power demand and high renewables output. Again, 90 events per year, so that's a handful per month. In this particular program, event opt-out is not permitted. So customer enrolls in the program, as you'll see in the next couple of slides, the compensation value is quite high. And as a result, Holy Cross is really expecting that customers make their batteries available up to their nominated capacity during all the program events. Though batteries will not discharge when severe weather is anticipated. So Holy Cross is not going to call program discharge events if there's a severe weather alert that would potentially cause a power outage where customers would be, of course, really concerned about having backup capacity in their battery to help keep their lights on. The program participation period is year-round, so 12 months of the year, and the program term is 5 years, and customers will be given an option to renew after that initial 5-year period. So Tony, if you can move us to the next slide, please. Great, thank you. So in terms of incentives, and there's a little bit of math in this slide, but it's not super complicated. We'll walk through it step by step. So customers will be paid a one-time upfront enrollment incentive, and that's of $500 per kW of battery nameplate capacity. And we'll walk through an example in just a second. Plus a participation incentive of $10.30 per kilowatt enrolled per month. Right, so there's a little bit of a difference between battery nameplate and kilowatts enrolled, right? So let's take an example of 3 IQ battery 5Ps at a customer site, right? So that's 15 kWh or 11.52 kW, right? Because each battery has a rated capacity of 3.84 kW. 3.84 times 3 is 11.52 kW, right? And let's say that this customer decides to enroll only 10 kW of that total 11.52 kW in the program. Let's just say they don't want to enroll 100% of their system. They choose for 10 kW instead. The earnings or the compensation would be as follows. So $500 per kW nameplate times 11.52 kW, right? That's that rated capacity of the customer system, and that is upfront. And then $10.30 times that enrolled kW per month times 10 kW ongoing. So in summary, that would be $5,760 upfront plus $1,236 in that first year, which means almost $7,000 in year one, and then that $1,200 in each subsequent year. So over a period of that 5-year program participation, you would have almost $12,000 for a customer's battery system, and that's a lot of money, man. I mean, we've been doing programs like this all over the country for years now, and this is one of the most lucrative kind of high compensation customer programs that we have seen. So should hopefully be really exciting and attractive for customers. This would mostly pay for the cost of a customer's battery system, not every dollar, but pretty close. So we're really excited to partner with Holy Cross in bringing this program to you and your customers. Hopefully it will be a great encouragement for customers to get excited about batteries and about Enphase technology and about partnering with you guys to bring that battery configuration to their homes. In terms of program eligibility and timing, customers can only participate in Power+Flex if they are not enrolled in the Holy Cross Power+, peak time payback, or time of use rates programs. These are other kind of demand management or incentive programs that Holy Cross offers, and Holy Cross wants you to only be in one program at a time, or in Power+Flex only and not in these other programs. Holy Cross can work with customers to unenroll from those other programs if they happen to be in one and would like to transition over to Power+Flex. I'm not sure the degree to which you guys interact with Holy Cross on a consistent basis. Our experience so far with them is that they are very customer service oriented, very responsive. They don't have a huge team, but they take their customer programs very seriously, and they've really indicated a lot of interest in kind of being very hands-on and helping manage the customer experience very carefully here. So I would like to think that they would make that process pretty easy for customers who want to unenroll from a previous program for the sake of enrolling in Power+Flex. And then the program is accepting enrollments now via that web page that you see linked here. And Virtual Peaker, just for your background, essentially is they're kind of like a program administrator that's been hired by Holy Cross Energy to relay the commands that Holy Cross Energy comes up with to the battery systems that are participating in the program. So think of them as like a middleware software layer. They also do a lot of the program administration work for Holy Cross, like run the enrollment process and communicate with Holy Cross on program performance and things like that. We have a good relationship with Virtual Peaker. We've been working with them for quite some time now. But if you see their name in some of the slides or on the portal, of course, that's just kind of the role that they play for your background. Again, not going to have a whole lot of interaction, between them and you guys. I wouldn't imagine. Your conversations will be mostly with Holy Cross and with Enphase's customer service team if you have any questions. But just wanted to make sure we gave you a little background on who Virtual Peaker was and what their role in the program is going to be. So Tony, if you want to move us forward one. Okay, cool. So we'll talk a little bit about the program enrollment workflow and process. So all the program steps, again, are going to take place via that Holy Cross Virtual Peaker online portal, which should make it faster and easier for customers to get signed up. Virtual Peaker has been doing this kind of thing for a long time. We had a good amount of review with respect to how, we would recommend that they put together the enrollment process. So we gave them some feedback, which they took, which is great. Holy Cross has been very actively involved here too, which is a long way of saying that the enrollment process should hopefully be pretty slick, pretty easy to work through. Customers can do it themselves. They don't need to find a lot of technical information or complicated information on their side to be able to enroll in the program. You guys could also handhold customers through it. Should be pretty straightforward for you too. So we'll walk you through screen by screen how it's meant to work. And of course, if you have any questions about how the enrollment process works, you can follow up with Holy Cross or with our team, and we can make sure we have you guided correctly. So Tony, if you want to go next slide, please. Great. So first step, call this step 1A for whatever that's worth. The customer will visit the online portal, the link that we had in the previous slide. Review the battery configuration options. So basically ensure that they have, an Enphase 5P, 3, or 10 battery system. Of course, if they're participating in this program, they will, but this is just a quick check. And then they'd enter their name and email address. And Tony, if you would mind going to the next slide, please. Cool. And then customer will enter their phone number and the physical address where the battery system is going to be installed. Tony, if you go to the next slide. Very cool. And then customer would select the type and number of batteries installed and then enter the date of install. So again, just making sure that customers are selecting the right battery technology and the right number of batteries, and this will help Holy Cross understand, how much capacity is available via that customer's battery system, how much might they want to enroll, helps them kind of know what to expect. And then of course that date of install is important, so Holy Cross can kind of track when these systems are coming on to their grid, how long they've been around, etc. Next slide, please. So next step is the customer would select the percentage of their battery capacity that they want to enroll in the program. So they have a couple options here, right? If they choose that moderate amount, this means that Holy Cross will never discharge more than 25% of their battery to participate in the program at any given time, right? The advantage here would be if customers really are motivated to have as much backup power as they possibly can and aren't as concerned about maximizing their in-year ongoing program participation incentive, right? Balanced would be that 50 to 75%. This would be a selection the customer would make if they, want to balance their bill credit with their battery's energy, right? So if the customer wants to maintain a fair amount of backup capacity, maybe not the majority of it, but in that half to 25% range, and they want to also get a good amount of value for the participation incentive each year, that's a good way to select. And then again, of course, Holy Cross will, discharge up to 75% of that customer's battery capacity during, discharge event, and or of course recharge up to 75% of that customer's battery during that oversupply event. And then maximum would be 100%. This would give the customer the maximum amount of credit on their bill. Just as a quick clarification, customers' batteries will never discharge below 10% state of charge. Right, so it says 100%. That's you're giving all the battery capacity that you can to Holy Cross, but practically speaking, we won't discharge the customer's battery system below 10%. to make sure that we are maintaining the system's health over the warranty period, right? You don't want to deep cycle batteries if you can avoid it, as you guys know so well, right? So think about that really is 90%, but this is basically the customer would be saying, I'm giving Holy Cross all of my battery capacity that I safely can. And of course, that would maximize the customer's available performance incentive each year. Going to move one slide forward, Tony? Great, thank you. Here, the customer would enter their Holy Cross account number. That's pretty simple. It's on the bill. They can find that pretty easily. And of course, the Holy Cross team can support the customer if they have questions on where to find it. If you want to go next slide, please, Tony. And then here, the customer would be accepting the Holy Cross terms and conditions for participating in the program, right? So Holy Cross has, a relatively comprehensive set of program terms. Customer can review those in the box there, just basically laying out how Holy Cross can use their battery, the compensation terms, program duration, etc. Customer can review that pretty standard agreement and then click accept and move to the next step in the process. Here, customer would choose their device. As you see, there's two different device categories that can be included in the program. Tesla got a little bit of a head start on this. For us, they joined the original kind of Power+ program that Holy Cross kicked off a couple of years ago. We made sure that we were added to the Power+Flex program because, again, we want to make sure we give our customers an opportunity to take advantage of this great incentive and hopefully give a good sales support tool to our installer partners. So customers have, of course, the choice between two different devices, but when they choose that Enphase there, they click that Enphase box. This will take them to this Enphase specific workflow toward the end of the enrollment process. So Tony, if you want to do the next slide, please. Okay, cool. So here, if they click that Enphase box, or when they click that Enphase box, they'll be taken to the Enphase terms and conditions. So essentially, customer has to agree that to Holy Cross sending control signals to their device, and we ask them to agree to have us accept Holy Cross's signals and manage their battery accordingly, right? We want to make sure that we are given explicit permission by the customer to control their device in accordance with the terms of the program that they are joining, right? It's just kind of a belt and suspenders thing. Customer batteries, they're expensive, and we want to make sure that, customers are giving us explicit permission to operate them in a way that's consistent with program terms, right? If they don't accept these program terms, again, they can't enroll in the program, but again, they're pretty basic. It's just a couple of pages worth of standard contract that we don't typically have too many questions on from customers. They click that box there. And then here's where it gets a little interesting. It's not super complicated, but essentially this last step in the process is a critical one. We call it the OAuth process. It's kind of a standard protocol that you use to confirm your acceptance of program terms and conditions or enrollment. Essentially, when a customer clicks this box, this add device box, it takes them to their Enlighten platform login. They log in with their credentials there, and then they click accept via that Enlighten kind of portal instance. And the reason why we do this is basically for data validation on our side. So essentially, when the customer officially adds their system to the program and they go through this Enlighten workflow, this is us getting the data on the customer's system and ensuring that it coincides with the program enrollment selections the customer has made. So it's a way for us to kind of connect the dots on the back end and validate that the customer does in fact have a battery, the battery is operational. If the customer is, selecting to enroll 15 kW, or whatever, 11.52 kW, let's say, that we can verify, in fact, the customer does have 11.52 kW on site. It's just a good way to streamline that last step in the data validation process, so we get high quality enrollment information from the customer, and it can minimize some of the back and forth around kind of clarifying customers' enrollment information. So again, this is pretty straightforward. Most customers are going to have pretty easy access to their Enlighten credentials. This is what they would use to sign into the customer app or to the Enlighten portal. And that's kind of the last stage in the enrollment process, I believe. I think that's our last enrollment slide. I believe, Tony, will you give us one more here?
That is the last one, Michael. So awesome.
Okay, cool. Great.
That is a really exciting program. We're going to answer some of the questions in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit about some of the next steps that you may need to take as an installer if you're not certified to install Enphase systems yet. We offer free training through our online platform called Enphase University. And you can get trained in Enphase storage sales, as well as installation, design, and also just solar installation as well. If you're not doing storage, obviously this program requires energy storage, so we'd encourage you to get certified to install our energy storage platform and system as well. And as I mentioned, we do offer hands-on training as well. We offer in select locations around the country. So you, depending on where your headquarters or where you're located, you may need to travel a little bit to do hands-on training if you want to. Hands-on training isn't required to get certified, just to be clear. You can get fully certified to install our systems only with taking our online training for free. Here we have a few resources you should be aware of. We have a training page on our website where you can learn all about the different training options available and offerings from Enphase Energy. If you have questions about grid services in general or this program specifically, you can email us at gridservices@enphase.com. And here we have the names and email addresses of the regional sales manager for your region, as well as the inside salesperson. Either one of these guys, Chris Canfield or Drew Saunders, can help you out with questions and helping work with the program as well. So you might want to take a screenshot of this. We will be sharing information about this webinar in a follow-up email. So, for example, we're going to share a PDF of the presentation that we went through and a recording of the webinar as well. So if you have colleagues that wanted to attend but couldn't make it today, you can share the recording with them. So yeah, you can look forward to that follow-up email in a day or two. So a great question came in from Jeremy. This is doesn't really have to do with grid services per se. It's more just about Enphase versus competitors. His question is, why should a customer choose an Enphase battery over a Tesla battery? Michael, I think that's right up my alley, so I'll go ahead and take that question.
Sure, perfect.
This is something we've done so much work on lately. It's hard to give a short answer. A few things that come to mind: Enphase uses a modular battery design. So our batteries come in 5 kilowatt-hour increments, which makes it easier for you to just perfectly right size the battery for the customer's needs. You don't have to sell systems in 13.5 kilowatt-hour increments. Another advantage of Enphase is that we use a safe battery chemistry called lithium iron phosphate, which has very low susceptibility to thermal runaway. So that's a nice benefit for the homeowner, and as well as for you as the installer, knowing that you're installing the safest possible battery on your customers' homes. A third reason I can think of is that Enphase is really committed to providing excellent customer support. As I mentioned, we have customer support available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. When you call Enphase, you can actually get a hold of a real human being within about 2 minutes. And we all have experts in different different areas of expertise that you may be transferred to help you with any kind of challenging questions or issues you might be dealing with. And the last thing I'll mention is just the advantage of distributed architecture, which is what Enphase is known for. It's a cornerstone of our technology. And by that I mean with microinverters instead of a string inverter, you have a much more resilient and flexible system. If there happens to be a failure of one of the microinverters in the solar array or in the battery, the system still works. It might have slightly less power until that microinverter problem is addressed, but the system still continues to function. Contrast that with Tesla Powerwall, pick your generation. Typically, it's going to have a hybrid inverter, which is what the Powerwall 3 has, or integrated with, or the inverter that's built into the standard Powerwall, for example. It's a single point of failure for the system. If that inverter fails, and inverters are known to fail within about 10 to 15 years, that entire system is going to be out of commission, both solar and the storage system. So a few things there. We do offer a regular sales training on Enphase products. So if you'd like a little bit deeper dive into the advantages of Enphase systems, I encourage you to check out some webinars and training we have on our site. You can find those at enphase.com/events. So now we'd love to go to the Q&A and encourage you all who are listening to type your questions in to the questions tool within GoToWebinar so we can get an answer from Michael the expert. While we're waiting for some customers to, or I'm sorry, for some questions to be typed in, Michael, I took some notes and wrote down a couple that I had. You did, in your example calculation, you did say that over 5 years, someone who's enrolled can make a certain amount of money. Is that the time frame of the commitment? Is it 5 years, or can you continue to participate beyond 5 years and make more money?
Sure. So it's an initial 5-year program commitment, and then customers will have the ability to kind of re-up or reauthorize after that 5-year period is done. We haven't had confirmed with Holy Cross if that will be for another 5-year block or if it'll be for like a 1-year increment at a time. I don't know if actually they've even decided at that point. I think probably part of it will be how popular is the program, how is their program budget looking after that 5-year period. But they have said the customers can, reauthorize their participation in the program after that initial 5-year period.
Okay, fantastic. Question came in from Jeremy. Why is Enphase not enrolled in Power+, where HCE will pay the upfront cost of installation?
Great question. Yeah, honestly, we didn't have awareness of that program when Holy Cross was designing it a few years ago. I think Power+ has been around for like 2 years, which means that Holy Cross would have been kind of doing the design process for that program, probably 3 or 4 years ago. We've been talking with Holy Cross about the Power+Flex program design for about 1.5 years now. So I would imagine they probably have about 1 year or 2 program design cycle before they kick a program off. And honestly, we were launching our grid services business at Enphase about 3 years ago. So I think it was probably just a matter of timing.
Is there an advantage to choosing one, either the Power+ program or the Power+Flex program?
Gosh, good question. I mean, I know that Power+Flex gives the customers a little bit more flexibility with how their system is being used. I think my understanding is that there are fewer events being called. I mean, to just put my Enphase hat on, I'd say choose Power+Flex, of course, because you can enroll an Enphase battery in it. We're not a part of the original Power+ program, but I'd say, if Enphase is a good technology fit for you, Power+Flex is a good program pathway. I think that's probably the simplest way to look at it.
All right. See, I don't see any additional questions coming in. I had another couple myself. If a customer has had an Enphase battery for a couple years already, can they enroll, or is it only for brand new systems?
Yeah, so Holy Cross has said that new and existing systems can enroll, which is great.
Okay, that's fantastic. That's a nice follow-up opportunity that installers have to reach out to those customers and offer them a really nice incentive, and potentially, I think, offer a system expansion or some other services they might want to offer. Another question I had, Michael, was just sort of technical about, say a customer has their Enphase battery also set to self-consumption mode, and their battery is not at a full 100% state of charge when a discharge event occurs. But I guess my example, what I'm thinking is, say they're enrolled for 75%, but they only have 25% SOC in their battery when the event begins. So the utility can't tap into all the energy that they're expecting. Does that cause any issues, or does the utility just accept like the battery is going to be at the state of charge that it's going to be?
Great question. So, our understanding is that there are no performance penalties associated with this program. If a customer were to opt to, completely unenroll from the program and say, don't communicate with my battery any longer, Holy Cross, I believe that they would be responsible for refunding Holy Cross a prorated portion of their incentive that's been paid out. But if it's a matter of the customer delivering less than Holy Cross anticipated they would get from the customer's battery because of the issue that you highlighted, Tony, or another one where the battery just isn't fully charged, the way it's been described to us is that the customer would just receive a lower performance payment. So Holy Cross and Virtual Beaker will be doing kind of analysis of program performance throughout the course of a program year. And if a customer is consistently delivering less than their committed amount, Holy Cross will reduce their performance payment proportionately, at the end of the program year. I think Holy Cross also, might ask some questions for the customer in terms of what's going on with your battery. But our understanding is they would just reduce the the customer's program incentive payment.
Got it. Thanks, Michael.
Sure.
Okay, another question from Jeremy. Can we use other solar systems AC coupled with Enphase batteries? I'll go ahead and take that one. So unfortunately, right now, no, Jeremy. Enphase batteries, or I should say Enphase solar, is the only type of solar inverter system that can be coupled with an Enphase battery. You can do it the other way around. You can install other batteries with Enphase microinverters on the solar array, but obviously for this program, Enphase batteries are what we're promoting and what either Enphase or Tesla has to be enrolled. So yeah, hope that answers your question. And you had another question. Does HCE not charge the batteries first before a discharge event? This is how the Power+ program works. Michael, can you take that one?
Yeah, good question. I guess I need to understand that a little bit in more detail. My understanding is that Holy Cross is not going to be sending those charge commands to customer battery systems aside from those oversupply event periods, right? So I don't think they're planning on, kind of pre-charging the customer's battery on any regular basis. They may opt to, implement some of those charge events more frequently over the course of the program year, right? Or if they're seeing that customers' batteries are typically being depleted pretty significantly before a program, discharge event is scheduled to start, they may again opt to do some of those pre-charge events, if you will. But our understanding is that that's not a part of the default Power+Flex program design.
Great, thank you. All right, I don't see any additional questions coming in, Michael.
Okay.
So,
okay, thank
yeah,
you guys.
This has been an excellent session. I'll just say it one more time. I'm really surprised at how lucrative this program is. Obviously, the way that it's set up, they are making really good use of your battery compared to maybe some other programs that only might have 1 or 2 events per month or something like that. But the trade-off of getting these large incentives over a 5-year period is really quite amazing. So I hope the installers online today really jump on this and take advantage of it and talk to their customers about it. All right, well, we'll go ahead and conclude. And like I said, we are going to share a recording of this and the PDF of the presentation in the follow-up email that you'll get within about a day of today's session. So thank you very much for joining, and thank you, Michael. And I hope everybody has a wonderful day.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks, folks.